Hey everybody, Dirty Side Gets Down here. If you saw the last episode, you know we're not real happy with the outcome of the M3. I'm determined to figure it out though, so we're going to get it at any cost, even if that means going to the upside down. So at the end of the last episode, I was pretty certain it had bent valves. Everything pointed to it. Did a leak down test, and was air coming out of the intake for sure. But then I looked at the timing and nothing happened with the timing. Checked out the Vanos system when I took it apart. So after that last episode, I couldn't take it, tore the cylinder head off. In that process, I checked out the Vanos system, and there's just no way it can move far enough to cause this problem. Put the crank on top dead center, looked at the cams, everything was lined up timing wise, so it didn't jump time. But we're gonna have to dig deeper here and figure this out. So I got the first valve out. I know for sure this valve was leaking because this is the first cylinder I did a leak down test on. It really doesn't appear to be bent. It's kind of hard to show you in camera, but you know, usually when you bend a valve, it's pretty obvious that you bent it. But I do want to show you what I went through to get that one out of there. So I went ahead and took the spring off the next valve in the same cylinder, but I haven't tried to take it out yet. But watch this. That valve should just fall right out of there. So what I had to do with the first one was take a hammer to it. I really didn't want to do that, but what are you going to do? You got to get it out of there. That's a pretty heavy hammer, and it should not take that much force to move that valve. Well, now you can see how wiggle this thing to get it out of there. It was tough. So there's all this buildup on here. So then I cleaned up the first valve, lubed it just a little bit, and it just slides right in there. No big deal. So I think it's a crazy coincidence that two engines went out the same way back to back, but it looks like the problem is I just kind of bought a bad engine, but for $200, you know, what do you expect? The thing ran, so you can't be mad. I already happen to have a set of valve seals, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the first cylinder because I could leak down test it and I know it was leaking. Clean those valves up real good, clean everything up, put it back together. I'm going to make a plate. So I'm going to make a plate that just covers this cylinder right here. Seal it up real good, and then we'll do a leak down test like it's on the car. If all that seals up, then we'll continue down, check all the rest of the valves, make sure none of them are bent. Because they were hanging open, they definitely could have hit a piston and gotten bent. If all that checks out good, I'll throw the new valve seals I have on it. I got a new head gasket on the way. We'll get this thing back together and maybe drive it. Fingers crossed we see that in this episode. Alright, so I had to sort some things out. Didn't want to drag you guys through some tedious troubleshooting and messing around with this and all that. So we went through a little figuring things out, some ordering some parts, even some moving around. Guys with a little more eagle eye, been around here a little bit, probably noticed BMW's in the middle bay where the Nova was. I can't tell you why that is right now, but real soon you're going to see. I'm not exactly sure how these episodes are going to fall coming out, so I don't want to give it away right now, but another one I'm working on is going to be pretty cool for the channel. So anyway, on this head here, what I got figured out was it seems when the valves got gummy and stuck in the guides that they just tapped the pistons, just real lightly. Came up with a way to pressure test this without putting it back on the engine. I'll show you that a little bit later when we get to that point. But I used that to find out the exhaust valve seemed to be fine. It's just intake valves leaking. Another thing I did is I've got a couple traditional valve tools. You can see how deep these valves are in this cylinder head, but traditional tools won't work. So I whipped this up. There's also a little YouTube short on this thing. I may link it in the description, we'll see. But I'll show you how this thing works. Pretty simple. I saw something similar online that somebody was selling, but it was kind of clunky to use and not real simple. So I made this one a lot easier. We'll throw it on here and show you how it works. Alright, so the way this works is this piece will push down on both valves. With this welded here, this will spin So you turn this counterclockwise to push that down. It just uses the cam cap studs. All right, so we just turned this counterclockwise. I don't know if you can see it compressing those springs down. You just take a little magnet, get the locks out of there. Tighten the bolt back down and take it off. So that's pretty simple. So we're going to pop all those out with a little lapping compound, and then I'm going to pressure test it before putting it back on the engine. I got new valve seals, so hopefully this doesn't happen again. I could go through and rebuild this whole engine because it kind of needs it. In the words of the great David Freiberger, don't get it right, just get it running. That's kind of the goal here. I just want to drive this car. I've got the engine that came in the car to really go through it, rebuild it right, make it solid. I'll go ahead and go through these valves, get them cleaned up and all working right. And if I come across any weird hurdles, I bring you along. All right, so I've been through this entire cylinder head. Still needs a little more cleaning, but I've gone through, pulled all the valves out, cleaned all the stems, changed the valve stem seals on all of them. Even though the exhaust wasn't sticking, just the intake was, but we got it apart, let's do them all. After all that, in the process of the valves sticking open, one valve got bent. It's so minor you can't even see it. I only found it in a pressure test, so I replaced that one valve, but I thought I'd show you how I did the pressure test. Might help you out. Got a vacuum pump with some AC gauges, and then just made this little plate with some foam on it, real soft. So you just set that on the nice flat surface, turn the pump on, and see it way down the vacuum. So I did that to all 6 cylinders, exhaust and intake. They're all sealed up tight. So now we're gonna throw this head back on the car. With any luck, drive it.
Hey, fingers crossed.
So we're all back together. It's time to fire this thing up again. Here we go. We're finally driving. This is crazy. I'm hearing some noises. Sounds like maybe the backing plate to the brake rotors or something is rubbing the brake rotor a little bit. I'm thinking maybe the carrier bearing in the drive shaft, but hey, we got it driving. That's the biggest thing here. So we can fix all that stuff. So we still got our hands full, some things to get it back roadworthy, but man, roadworthy and driving are 2 different things, and at least we're driving. So after this, we're going to tackle that drive shaft noise. I'm really hoping it's a carrier bearing, because it's a whole lot cheaper than replacing the whole drive shaft. You can't service the U-joints in these things. I mean, you can, but they're not meant to. It really needs some ball joints, which we'll probably end up doing the whole control arms. That's another one that you can swap ball joints, but you're really supposed to just replace the control arm, so that's probably what's going to happen. Then I think we're going to do some BC coilovers on it. Once it's really roadworthy, then it's getting a turbo. Stay tuned for that.